Welcome to episode 95 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I catch up with Natalle Brown from the Melbourne Storm to chat about the Lightning rewards and actual lightning.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who uses hashtags in emails and texts, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan, and you are listening to the Sports Geek podcast, either on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Pocket Casts. Thank you very much for listening in and for downloading the episode. Please let me know that you are listening to the podcast. I love hearing feedback, getting questions and the like. You can always send me an email. Go old school, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. As mentioned earlier in previous episodes, before I went to seat, I took a small touring party from the FFA, the Football Federation Australia, and the Melbourne Storm, who play in the NRL rugby league here in Melbourne. And we did a lightning round trip where we took in Seattle, Portland and Los Angeles over 4 days. It was an action-packed 4 days. Natalle Brown from the Melbourne Storm, Head of Consumer Business at the Melbourne Storm, was one of those people who came along. Going to be catching up with Rob Squilaciotti from the FFA as well to get his point of view of the trip and some of his key takeaways. I wanted to catch up with Natalle now that we're back in Melbourne and sort of get her feedback on some of the things that she took away. You'll hear in her voice how energized she is now coming back from that trip, and some of her takeaways from seat in San Francisco. So without further ado, here is Natalle Brown, Head of Consumer Business for the Melbourne Storm. Here we are. I'm in the Sports Geek office and back with a fellow travel companion. We're now back from the United States, Natalle Brown from the Melbourne Storm. Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast.
Thank you, Sean. It's good to be here.
You are, and I'm going to check my notes, make sure I get it right, Head of Consumer Business at the Melbourne Storm. What does that entail?
Correct. So it's the accumulated roles of primarily membership and ticketing, which is where I came from, which now includes our loyalty program, our fan engagement programs, community, our growth markets. Fundamentally anything that's touching a fan, we're trying to bring it through that single pipeline and push it into the conversion, which is our members.
And the reason I called you a travel buddy at the beginning, we recently got back from the US. We did a little bit of a pre-seat tour, taking in a couple of towns, and people. Don't know when I'm going to put this podcast up, but people are going to get a few podcast guests from those towns of Seattle, Portland, and LA. Mm-hmm. And then you attended your first seat. What was the experience like for you?
The pre-tour was fantastic. I mean, it's the one thing, not that I haven't raved about seat, but in a completely different context, is the time we had meeting with those teams and those venues, and the robust knowledge sharing that went on between us. And it's back and forth between both teams, which we spoke about it a lot while we were away. And it's that we don't just have things to learn from our American counterparts. There's plenty that they've got to learn from us, and that they're actually interested in. So the follow-up conversations I've had as well with a lot of the people we met with. So it was great to be able to sit down and go through it, albeit often too quick, and then we have to follow it up, and then leading into seat, which really then was great because it prepared me for the conversations I wanted to have and actively seek out when I got to seat, while I'm trying to consume all of the the track content that was happening as well. So I mean, all of it was so incredibly beneficial, and the one thing people have said to me since I've got back is you seem really re-energized and reinvigorated and ready to go again, which is great.
Well, and that's what those kind of trips are meant for. So I wanted to talk to you about what you and Mike Billing, your counterpart at the Storm, spoke about at seat, and you obviously did speak with the teams prior to that. Tell us a little bit about the Lightning Rewards and the program that's been rolled out with the Storm.
Yeah, so Lightning Rewards is our loyalty program. It runs across both our members and our fans, but primarily members are engaging with it at the moment. And it measures both our online digital behaviours and then our at-game behaviours, which happen through a smart card that we have, powered by VIX Technologies. And what we were able to do is create a platform where we sort of have members coming and they're doing all the things we want them to do at a game, plus extra behaviours we're driving, and then all of that online engagement, which is really important for us. We've got over 400,000 likes on Facebook, but 15,000 members. So there's a big gap there, and we're trying to, close that gap as much as we can. And this has been a really fun way of doing it for the members. They're using a ladder board style system. As they earn points, they hit a reward level on the quest to become an immortal. We're not far off from hitting that. We have Tim Hawthorne leading the charge, and he's closing in very quickly on the 250,000.
He's under 10,000 away, Tim, as we record this.
Very exciting, and he is actively tweeting. And what's been really exciting to watch as well is that those top sort of 10 or 15 leaders are now communicating with each other a lot on our social media channels and gearing each other on, and they'll see what they're doing one thing and have you done this, and that's really fun to see as well. But what we are also, from our benefit, is getting is that broader knowledge of the entire customer journey and what they're doing and what they're engaging with, what works, what doesn't. Their feedback's been really good. It would be a mess without it because we've made mistakes along the way with this, and I think a really obvious one is on our fan stream, one of the rewards was a signed jersey. We didn't have that on the member stream, and the members really wanted it. So next year, guess what? It'll be on the member stream. But it's been great. So, I guess the other part of it that we've still got to go is this integration with the whole journey around getting to the stadium, what you're doing when you're in the stadium, and getting you home. So it's the whole day. It's a big focus for us now.
And so it is a matter of connecting the online activity. So whether you're reading a Storm article or whatever at the start of the day, you're tweeting on your way in, and then they're connecting with the actual doing at the stadium. So you're tapping on different parts of the stadium, whether it be a sponsor activation or a fan engagement activation that you're having at Amy Park.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at the moment with our in-game behaviours, it's when you're arriving at the stadium, you're scanning in, you're buying your merchandise or your food and beverages at concession stands, and a few sponsor stuff we have around the venue. Ultimately, where we want to be at now is that you're right. You get up in the morning, you checked a match story, you commented on it to a mate on Facebook, you sent some tweets on your way in. We know you came in via public transport. When you got off at Richmond Station, it's a little bit like enemy of the state, but in a nice way.
Yeah, it's Storm's version of Big Brother, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And then what we want to do then is we know when you enter the stadium, and straight away a push notification goes to Sean saying, great to see you back here. We've got a special offer for you. Take this, redeem it here. And it's that whole day, and it's by the time you leave, did you go up to a pub at the precinct or somewhere like that, and on your way home. So it's a really nice way for us to then start to reward you for everything you do to engage with Melbourne Storm, not just that you came, that you bought a membership, and that you bought some merchandise. What you do and your investment in our team is so much greater than that, and we want to recognise and reward those things.
And for the people who are listening, and this is the spiel that Natalle did with all the teams when you're giving it, Melbourne Storm is the only NRL team in Melbourne, in a predominantly AFL town with a lot of AFL teams here. So it really is something to, I guess, set yourselves apart, and the opportunity is to make as many people who live in Melbourne become Storm fans.
100%. I mean, we're the challenger brand here. That's what was really interesting when we spent some time talking with the MLS teams and even MLB to that extent in terms of the sheer quantity of games that they have to try and get people to. But we're fighting for the market. We're really small. Lots and lots of people in Melbourne will say they like Melbourne Storm but may never have actually engaged with this in any way, whether it's digitally or at a game. And we just want people to come and try it. We know we've got a really strong game day experience. All of our research shows us that. And it's very, very different to AFL. So you can come and get something that you're not going to see in a much shorter time period too. And that's what that's our push. That's what we want to achieve. More and more people engaging with us on some level. We don't, I always sort of say it, I'm happy to admit we can be the other woman to your AFL team. Something a little bit cheating about it, but that's fine. We know where we are. We're not trying to be the next Collingwood. Well, not right now anyway. And so, Collingwood's away, Sean, Collingwood's away for the weekend, come watch Storm, or it's not on a competing game day. You get along and you watch both our games and you get an entirely different experience. So, you went to both games on the weekend, so...
Yes, it's the best way to fight off jet lag.
Yeah.
Just get off the plane and go to a game in the MCG and then follow it up with a game the next day at Amy Park.
Absolutely.
Definitely gets you back in your time zone and stops me complaining about my sunburn when it's too cold to worry about it. I guess wanted to talk to you a little bit about your background in the world of sports.
Yep.
You are the second, I think you're the first father-daughter combo on the Sports Geek podcast.
Look, I'm going to lie, Jardian Ormsby, who used to work for the Cronulla Sharks and then was in basketball, once tweeted me saying it's like sporting royalty, with my uncle also being in sport, my cousin and my dad and I, but... yeah, we're a bit of a duo now, rocking our way through the different codes.
Yes, you did say it was an awkward Christmas dinner last year when you found out that your dad was on the podcast before yourself.
It was not just awkward, I was downright disappointed, and I probably yelled at him, which was not his fault, and then I think I eventually yelled at you too.
That's right. But yeah, if people have listened to Michael, who was at the time CEO of the Asian Cup. I think it's episode 73 that Brownie, as he's known by everybody, was on, and now he's CEO of NRL. The Rugby World Cup.
Yep, yeah.
So I wanted to know, I guess your dad being, having that long history in sport, was that something that drove you into sport? Is that something you thought that's somewhere I want to work?
Yeah, look, I think I sort of fell into it a bit, luckily. So when I was in high school and Dad was at the Hawthorn Football Club, I had the opportunity to do work during school holidays. So, did a bit of work in the shop, helped out in membership departments, just wherever someone needed it. And come the end of year 12, which was when the time Dad left to go to Cricket Australia, I was able to get more work just in membership. I thought, great, it's a bit of holidays pay, happy to do it, and it's always fun, and I already knew all the people. And from that moment on, it just never went away. I mean, so, I work a lot with young people now entering in those sort of graduate level roles in my team, and it's the one thing I tell them is, once you can get in, that's the best and the most important thing. I had a really lucky way in, which was via Dad, and I don't ever want to deny it, and I'm really thankful for it. But it still took hard work. He was gone pretty much as soon as I started full time. And for a long time felt I was in his shadow, but now you wisen up and get a bit older and think, actually, no, this is really beneficial because he pretty much knows everybody in sport. And until a month ago, we've never worked in the same code. So we're finally now actually, he rang me yesterday and I saw the NRL phone number ringing up on my phone. I was like, oh, God, who's that ringing me? And I dodged it. And then I was like, oh, no, it's Dad. I'll put your number in my phone so I don't dodge you. No offence to anyone at the NRL who I'm dodging phone calls from. Call me on my desk line. I'll probably answer that one. So, it came in that way. I had a little break for a while. I thought I wanted to try the normal corporate world. I'd done a degree in marketing and then realised that was absolutely not for me. Sport's the way I want to go, and it's
love the roller coaster ride.
Oh, you love it or you hate it, and for the people who love it, we stay in it for a long time. The ups and downs are fine. It's the hard work. It's the week to week. It's the no thanks. It's all manner of things, but you do it because you are part of that team and you do get to be part of something really, really special. So,
yeah, I really do think really good advice about breaking into sport, other than having your dad already working in it.
Try and get a dad who's a CEO of a club. That's really useful.
but just the getting in.
Yeah.
Like it's, a lot of people who listen to the podcast will come to me and say, how do you break into sport? And it's not easy because it's a highly competitive area, more so for the glamour. Like people think, I'm going to work with sport, I'm going to hang out with athletes, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No, not at all. Or you're babysitting them if you are, and that's not fun either.
But it is a matter of getting in the door.
Yeah.
And, the amount of people that, that I now know from SEAT, when you talk to them about their first job, and, people have been mascots and setting up tents out the side and handing out pamphlets, that is the first job.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not even the first job. No matter how, I'm been probably in sport for, this is my 12th season now, and I still put up our marquee, and you still do pack up and all the sorts of things that you think, oh gosh, I just don't want to be doing this anymore. But that's what it is. And, I'm yet to meet any clubs that are over-resourced with staff. So you just jump in, you chip in, and it's all part of the fun of it. The benefits and the extra things that we get from being able to be around the team and that culture is something you don't get in the corporate world. And I'm really lucky at Storm. We have a fantastic culture amongst our group, which is driven really strongly from our CEO and from our coach. There's a real family nature about what we do. Everyone's included. And it's really nice. We're at the same location as our team, so everyone has visibility of them. And they're a great bunch of guys. There's no ego. Most people wouldn't know more than half our players when you walk past them on the street. So they're really easygoing too, and they want to jump in and help just as much as the young staff do. But for those guys coming in, the best thing I'll say to any interns or anyone who's trying to get in is just foot in the door. If you need to volunteer, give that a go, because once you impress someone in sport, they will stick with you, because come the time that we want to employ you in a job, it's almost unfair, but we expect someone to be able to hit the ground running. And you can't if you've never worked in it. So if you've had a little bit of experience, even if it's just helping out, chipping around on game day, that's huge. That's a really important thing. So initiative is the big one.
Definitely. And I think one of the takeaways, I think it was Paul Greenberg's panel where he brought in guys like Ray Wang talking about, I guess, the uniqueness of sport in that they have these massive brands. And like you were saying before, Storm has this massive brand, massive presence, 400,000 likes, but really is a mid-sized or a small business behind the scenes. It doesn't, the resourcing and the amount of people behind the scenes does not match what the perception is. And, so many times, and, you'll get pitched all the time with, hey, you guys need this tool or whatever. And you're like, well, hang on, we're not, our brand is this big, but our resources and our budgets and our people behind the scenes are nowhere near that. And it's sort of both an opportunity from a sports point of view, but it's also the reality of you've got to stretch things a lot further.
We do, and everyone's used to it, and it is probably why people come to think it's going to be more glamorous than it is when you get there and you realise, well, holy hell, I've got to do all of these other things as well. But it's knowing that there's other people there to support you all the time, and a really good example is with Lightning Rewards. It's our first year of running it in its entirety, and it's been a real learning curve for us internally as well, and I don't think anyone would shy away from that. And a lot of that is that administratively there's still a lot of work that has to be done behind the scenes to make the program work, and that's largely managed by a young man in my team called James Green, who everyone, I think, who participates with Lightning Rewards has probably had some one-on-one interaction with, and it's just him. So he's plugging away every day in his little hamster wheel, just getting through everything. And the days it overwhelms him, he'll speak up, and we'll jump on and we'll help him do whatever he needs. And that's what it's about. Is we're trying to grow him, but we want to grow all the others, say in the membership team too. So it's important that we make sure that everyone can help out. But you sort of look at 15,000 people, members. We've got actively 2,500 people using the program. And it's one man making everything work. So it's a bit of a, I think back to when I first started and I was the only person in membership. I mean, we had 10,000 members my first year here, but it's a lot of work to do. So we grow ever so slowly. But I wouldn't let anyone shy away from that being scared of sort of being busy.
Oh, but being
busy is great.
That is the way.
Yeah.
I mean, again, 6 years ago, the web departments were one guy.
Yeah.
So they're all growing along the way. Now we've got guys like James holding together the whole loyalty program. But you're right, he's doing customer service for 2,500 people.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's pretty phenomenal when you think of it in that sense. Going back to Lightning Rewards, I want to sort of just run through and tick off some of the technology behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So you want to go through.
Yeah, sure.
Who's running behind the scenes?
So we initially last year we piloted the program just on those at-game behaviours, which are all driven off your membership card. So only our members can participate in that portion. And there's a company called VIX Technology that powers the smart card, which is your members card, and all of the behaviours that you're doing with that. The online and social digital behaviours are through a company called Badgeville, based out of the US. So VIX is based in WA, here in Australia. And Badgeville out of the US, and they're running all the online stuff, and then bringing it all together is another company called Jan Rain, and then Telstra, which through partnership with the NRL produces the site that you would go on and see.
They've done all the plumbing to pull together the Badgeville stuff and the membership stuff together. So it's a one single view. Correct,
yeah. So because, as you're a member, Sean, and I'm a member, but for someone else in the office who might not be, they can be using the online, the Badgeville component, and our members are using too. So we've got this almost single sign-on solution happening. It's in our sort of movement and our pathways, and they're the technology companies at the moment that are powering the program. We're then in the process of building a data warehouse. It was one thing that was super hot topic on the CRM track at Seat for me was just data warehouse, and then business analyst. So we're in the process of that, and that was a really interesting thing to take away from Seat was while you look at all of the US teams and where they're at with their data warehousing and their analysis work that's being done. We're not behind because everybody in Australia is in the same spot. There's nobody who's built some fantastic data warehouse and is using it to the best of their abilities, or a CRM for that matter. And I was really interested by some of the teams that have actually stopped using a CRM and are just using their data warehouse instead. So we're in the process of that, which is really good for us. That's great news for James because it means all of his work, all the Lightning Rewards content, and there's so much information and that we're collecting is now going to go into one single source of truth that we can extract from. So we've got that sort of happening, and that'll be in place ready for the next season, as well as some more marketing automation tools as well. That's really key. Is we've got all this content coming in, and then we've got to be pushing out constantly, rewards and updates and newsletters, and there's so many different streams and segments now to our membership base that we're trying to make sure that Sean doesn't get one of everything because you don't need it. And so managing that as well will be a really important next step and vital next step for us, as well as the introduction of mobile technology for, you no longer need your card anymore, you'll use your mobile. Now that's still powered through VIX.
The mobile ticket stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's little bits of that are everywhere, but it's giving it a holistic and an absolute whole approach to your experience because, I know traditionally membership cards are really important. It's the same as looking at the American teams that are still using ticket stubs for every game. I'd love to move away from them, though, because it gives us so much more flexibility with your entitlements and what we can do for you rather than going, oh, well, you've changed that now. Now I've got to send you a whole new one. You've got to wait for it to come in the mail. We're getting past those days.
And I think we had the discussion a couple of times, both on the trip and then with people. I think both paper tickets and membership cards will become ceremonial.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a souvenir. It's a novelty.
An add-on.
Yeah.
I think I've even got, I don't know if I brought in the office yet, we've got our own, we went to StubHub to watch the Galaxy and myself
I've got
and
my
Rob
lanyard
Squill,
still.
the lanyard with our commemorative photo of the game. I think they'll be more, one activation, so people still want the souvenir.
Absolutely.
And eventually, we just moved to the place where the mobile ticket, like we saw with the guys at Levi Stadium and the 49ers, where you just scan your phone.
Yeah, and we certainly don't want to take away from the badge of honour that is your membership card and wearing it around your neck in your lanyard and showing off how many years you've been a member. That's really important too. But from a functionality perspective, we can give you so much more if we start to utilise some of these new tools and avenues that we can constantly be making changes and updates for you. So, I think of a really simple one for us is, you come, you've got a reserved seat and you bring a friend, well, we've got to print you a whole new ticket. It's just, we can push something out to your phone straight away. So it's a lot of education for us too with our members, which is to make sure that they understand that the benefits of it. So we're not taking anything away. Yep. We just want to show you we want to give you more and more. It's time to really give back to our members. So that's a really big focus for 2016.
And you were saying then just before about seat and, spending a lot of time in the CRM track. I was lucky enough I'm catching up with all the CRM people because I missed it because I was in the digital track.
Well, I wish I had some more time on CXO, but that's all right. Next year.
Exactly. What were some of the, I guess key takeaways or the ones where you really dived in and writing like crazy?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did bring my notebook because I was going to open it up and reference it, but I remember pretty much all of it. It's we had some really interesting. One I really loved that was not necessarily a write-down one, but there was a session on what didn't work. There was a whole segment, just let's talk about the things that didn't. And that was really insightful to hear people talk. We rarely at a conference talk about the things that don't do well. Everyone's sort of showing off a little bit, of course. So that was insightful.
Because, there would have been a lot of nodding heads, a lot of people going...
Oh, yeah, shit. Oh, sorry, we tried that one too.
We tried that one too. I'll now have to put explicit warning on the,
I'm
on
sorry.
the podcast. James, can you please beep what Natalle just before there? I think you're the first person to get bleeped on the podcast.
I'm sorry, Dad, if you're listening.
That's all right. I don't even think we need to beep shit anyway.
No, good, okay.
So don't beep it, James. Anyway, going on. That is exactly, when I was trying to tell you what seat is, that's exactly what it is, that real open
and
conversation. And the way
I've tried to explain seat to my colleagues or my peers since I've been back, so, really insightful things, talking a lot about data warehousing, and that's an interesting one. So now his name from the Buccaneers, we did a great presentation on some of the work they're doing out of Tableau. And what I loved about it was that unlike any conference I've ever been to before, that midway through you could stop and put up your hand and he might be talking about they're looking to recruit in an analyst role. Mm-hmm. Okay, so what are you guys looking to pay for it? And just share, you know what, well, we need someone that's worth six figures, but we can only afford 50,000. And you think that's exactly the same battle we all have. And that kind of sharing I haven't been to a conference yet where I see that sort of happening because of that closed door safety that is seat, that if you want to just ask that question, and people were sharing, it's the collaboration keyword that we spoke about at the start of the conference. So that was really interesting because what I loved, so back to the sort of the Buccaneers one around their data warehousing and how they're producing useful reports for people, is that it's a piece of software that we can use that's not overly expensive. Now, while I might not have as many people being able to run it, you get those little bits of, well, here's the things I can manipulate and use from it. And many teams using Arctics as their ticketing database or platform. Well, we use Arctics as well. Oh, hang on, they're doing something over there I haven't heard about yet. So I think poor Jamie Haybick, who was at Seat, I hassled him the first day. I bowled him up and said, let me tell you what I've learned from our pre-tour first is all these things that you didn't tell me we could be doing. So a lot of it was I mean, everything on CRM stood out to me. I even loved, there was a big session on personalisation, which I really enjoyed as well. And some of the general ones, so the Golden State Warriors talking about their playoffs and finals program. And that's one thing that now we sat down for our first meeting this week about finals. It's the dirty F word. We're not meant to talk of it internally anyway.
And that was the exact same. The Warriors are the same. Yeah. They were Kenny Lauer and his team were tiptoeing around planning the parade.
Yeah, you have to.
But they couldn't talk about the parade when Coach Kerr was around.
So we have this sort of closed-door little commercial-style meeting where we're talking about, what's the hashtag going to be? What's the theme? How are we getting people in to engage? How do we get buy-in from players, football? It's from the players, the fans, and the city. The members in the city was sort of how we're buying it now, and that's what the Warriors did really well. They had that buy-in, which was the players could use something, and we're working through that now as well. Completely relevant. So, those were ones I was writing lots and lots of notes how did that come up?
I think the best line from that panel, and I haven't reviewed the audio yet, I'm hopefully be able to pull some snippets for the podcast. I think it was Jeremy Thum, who's the new digital guy there, and he was lucky enough to, I think he started 2 weeks before the finals, but he talked about planning for proactive content rather than reactive content.
Exactly right. That's a note in my notebook. I remember that one,
and so it can look reactive, but you've already planned it.
Exactly right.
They said they did a lot of that stuff getting ready for it. And, you get a lot of kudos for, wow, they've just come up with this. No, we haven't just come up with this. We planned like crazy for
absolutely.
it. And, there's all these other pieces of content on the floor that we didn't get to use because those events didn't happen.
Correct.
But it's very much what, that's how sport is completely different to any other marketing organisation. If you're, Coca-Cola or Cadbury, you can just plan and go, okay, now what do we do? Oh, step one, and now we'll do step two. It's like, well, hang on, we had a big win or we had a big loss or we had a controversy.
Yeah.
Like you have to be agile enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be able to roll with the punches.
Yeah, and I think a big thing for me is, I loved during the finals, the Cavs had this sort of big tifo they had out in the back of their stands that said, there's always this year. And whether that's an internal mantra that we stick by or it's an external one that you can push out, you're absolutely right. Let's try it now rather than reactively go, oh, gosh, I wish we'd done that during finals. We'll do it next year in finals. Okay, somebody remember next year we're going to do that. And that never happens.
Yeah, and for the Warriors it was strength in numbers. They'll run strength in numbers again. It works, and spoken previously to John McCauley when he was at the Raptors, the We the North. That was another one we go, oh, we should go with it. Oh, yeah, we'll go with it next year. And they went, no, let's pull the trigger now. And they ran it and I think in a really successful campaign.
You've got to pick it up. I think... The number one meeting that we had that I speak about to everyone and anyone who probably doesn't even want to know is the conversations we had with the Trailblazers. And they stood out to me as the team that knew their brand, lived their brand and their culture the best. And the whole Rip City thing just impressed me. And it's all off the back of one thing that's said at one point in time, being able to identify it really quickly and picking it up and using it. And you're lucky if you're gifted something that works that way. Not everyone is. Craig Bellamy says some amazing things, and we very often keep them internal. That's a mantra for the football department, and it's trying to pick it out and go, actually, you know what, that'll work. From a consumer perspective, let's push that out externally as well, which they're open to. We've got to get footy buy-in. It's their game, and they're the football team, and they're the ones we're very careful of the dirty F word, but... making sure they're accepting of it as well, and that's better. That's what really stood out with the Warriors and strength in numbers is the players wholeheartedly bought into that.
Well, again, Kenny tells the story that it was just a phrase that was getting used internally.
Yeah,
and so it got adopted, and that's the same story behind Rip City.
Yeah, I love that Rip City. They'll advertise for a role there, and they advertise it for working for Rip City rather than the Portland Trailblazers. I mean, that's an incredible brand awareness that I can only hope one day we can get to. But that was my number one takeaway from our pre-meetings was that, apart from the fact that data is everything, and that was across the whole time we were away, know your brand, live your brand. And we have a really strong brand. I mean, it's not without its history, but it's a very short history too. This is only our 18th year in the competition, and we've had an incredibly successful time of it. So we do need to do more work in our, growing our market. It's slow. It is tough. We're not able to crack into the AFL space as much as we'd like with people. We're doing a heap more work next year around NRL Victoria, our community-based programs. Even, Touch Football is such a big network for us. All of that's going to get a huge revamp and an uplift, is bringing these people back closer to us rather than start saying, well, NRL Victoria technically sits under the NRL arm and ARL, and they're going to be over there and we're going to be over here. Well, no, we are all one thing. We all have one common goal. We want kids playing the game for NRL, like, Mahe Fanuas of the world and the young Tonomapayas and Richie Kenners. We want them playing within the Victorian competition and coming through our pathways, 16s, 18s, 20s into first grade. But we also then want the development officers going out and just selling our story in schools. They go out in the purple and the kids know it's Storm because it's certainly not Fremantle, and that's the only other purple that exists in the market. We're lucky that even though the NRL's colours are green and gold, that if they went out in those colours here, that's Cricket Australia. So, we push them out and they know it. And, I sat down with Billy Slater yesterday and we talked about how we're going to roll out some of his stuff for next year with membership, and he's excited and really loves to get involved as much as he can. He's throwing around all these ideas and I'm thinking, whoa, Bill, you're not going to remember those when I come to you next year, so let's just calm down a bit.
That's why you record them all.
Yeah. Let me just get my phone out, Bill. And but he's really, and he knows the value of his brand to our business as well. He's not going to play forever. All those older players now are very aware that, are they on their last contract? What have they got left in them?
Yep.
And he wants to do everything he can and to still be part of our team and our club when that goes away. So for us, we've got to maximise on that as much as we can. And then, the excitement of a Munster. You were at the game on the weekend. I'm a big fan of Cam Munster. He worked for me when he first got here. So I like to say that a lot of what he learnt, which is not much, was from me. Certainly not his football, but that's such an exciting young man that, I think at times people externally might worry, well, what's Storm going to do when there isn't those players anymore? And we've got great players that are coming through and they're flashy and they've got the show and the excitement that people know for a Billy Slater. So, you stay tuned, and it's a young kid that's going to do really, really well.
Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. Before we go, because you've been talking about Lightning rewards.
I was going to say, do I get a prize for going?
You will get a prize.
I can pick something from the office.
Pretty much pick something from the office, exactly. But I want one more Lightning story. So everyone knows with seat, the last two seats, I've torn my Achilles and lost my voice, and everyone was thinking terrible things happen in threes. This is why I brought Natalle and Rob and Kyle with me on the pre-seat trip. They were my buffer for this exact story.
Yeah, so Rob and I, it was the morning flying from LA up to San Francisco, and Sean had already left for the airport. Rob and I were ready to go, and Kyle decided to work out longer. So we jumped on the little airport bus, chatting away, having a great time. Huge boom of noise. I feel like I thought it was a bomb. I'm not going to lie. We're in LA, and I'm a little bit
jumpy.
I'm snobby is probably the right word for it. So I'm thinking, oh my God, where are we? This is crazy. Looked out behind Rob and a huge ball of fire went up. So Rob's like, get off the bus. We've got to get off the bus.
And it was literally, 2 or 3 metres away?
Yeah, it was crazy. All the power had gone off in the hotel. People were yelling, like, get off the bus and signaling to us. So we jumped off. And
so effectively, for those trying to picture the scene at home, and I was telling the story as much as Natalle was at seat, a lightning bolt hit a power pole.
Directly behind us,
Directly behind you, about 5 minutes drive from LAX.
Correct, yeah. So we're at an airport hotel,
And I was at LAX at the time, and literally, the conveyor belts and everything stopped.
Yeah, because they were on the same grid.
And so all the power was out at LAX. You two turned up like 10 minutes after it happened.
Yeah.
And you were both still shaking.
Oh, I think we were shaking for a while. I mean, so what had happened? It had sort of blown up one lightning had struck the power pole, had sent it down to the nearest one, and that one had blown up too, and it sort of sent the power lines just missing the bus we were sitting on. So in all seriousness, we did almost die. And Rob and I were like, well, we've only known each other like 4 days, but I feel like there's a bond now between us, which there really is, which is nice. But
we were joking earlier, as a Storm fan and a Lightning fan, if you're going to go somewhere,
you've got to be struck by lightning. When you said to me, let's tell some lightning stories, I immediately thought of the racehorse Sunburnt Lad when it got struck by lightning. Totally forgot until we were tweeting about it. I'm like, that's right, I almost died. How could I have forgotten this story? So that was us saving you from anything horrific. And you did. You got through the whole.
I got through the whole thing, even though it did take us. I think it took us 6 hours to get out of LA. And good luck to the TSA guys who had to check every single bag by hand.
I know. Of all airports for it to happen at, it couldn't have happened at Portland or something. It was while we were at LAX on a Friday morning, Saturday morning too.
Saturday
crazy
morning.
Time.
So I mean, we got through all of our other flights. So lucky it didn't happen anywhere else, because it would have completely mucked up all of our meetings.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Happy to do further travels with you. Had a terrific time in the US, and best of luck for the rest of the season for the Storm.
Thank you.
Where can people find you on the internet?
So me personally?
Yes, you personally.
My Twitter is at Natalle Brown. I'm sure Sean will put it up because my name's spelt funny. Thank you, Mum and Dad. It's Natalle. Brown, just like the colour. Is my Twitter, and LinkedIn is the same.
So I'll put the links into the show notes. But send Natalle a tweet, especially with your near-death stories.
Please do. Yeah. See if you can beat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Rob will back me up. Ours was terrifying.
I am following up with Rob next week.
Excellent.
So we'll get his point of view, and yes, you'll be ever connected via lightning.
We will. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sean.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Natalle Brown. That's Natalle Brown. On the Twitter, send Natalle a tweet and tell her that you've been listening. And if you want to know more about Lightning Rewards, you can connect with Natalle on LinkedIn. All the links to Lightning Rewards and Natalle and how you can connect with her are in the show notes. This is episode 95 if you're listening for the first time. You can get the show notes at sportsgeekhq.com/95. And again, thanks again to Natalle for coming on the tour and then also coming back on the podcast. A few things to wrap up. Have you entered our Caption This competition featuring Russell Scobetti from episode 94? Go to the show notes. I want to see more people putting in their caption of the photo that was taken at seat. Ollie Matthews, thank you for sending your entry in. His was, sadly, Russell realised too late that this was not his banana. Oh, we need a rim shot there, James. I'm sure James has put a rim shot in there. Thank you very much. And so this episode question, I've been playing around, seeing a few people. Mate of mine, Jim Stewart, from Beers Blokes Business Podcast, has been playing around with multiple video platforms. Do you want me to do a weekly Periscope Q&A? I'm unsure whether to do it. I'm unsure where Periscope is going to lie, and especially now with Facebook coming out with Facebook mentions and live video, where that is going to play out in the whole scheme of things. Will all celebrities, which is what they've opened it up with initially, will they all move to Facebook mentions? Will that affect Periscope? Happy to give it a try. I've given a Periscope Q&A try once before. I'd rather do it at a scheduled time. If you want me to do a Periscope Q&A, I want to see a tweet. Send me a tweet at Sean Callanan, SeanCallanan, and tell me that you want one. I will do. To quote Jalen Rose, I will give the people what they want. Until next episode, my name is Sean Callanan. You've been listening to the Sports Geek Podcast. If you could leave a review on iTunes, I'd very much be appreciative of it. As I said in previous episodes, I'm climbing my way to 100 reviews globally. So if you have not left a review as yet and you are listening to this podcast, please take the time to leave a review. Just go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes and it'll drive you straight to the page to leave a review. I'll leave you with, at the end, stay tuned for the Sounds of the Game. Big thank you to Aaron LaValle from the LA Kings and AEG and the LA Galaxy for getting us some tickets for the Galaxy game, and we absolutely love the way the Galaxy fans reacted for every single goal. We were lucky enough to see Steven Gerrard in action for the Galaxy and see a few goals. I think it was 5 in total. But just listen to the end and see how LA Galaxy fans react after a goal is scored at the StubHub Centre. Till next week, my name is Sean Callanan. Cheers.
Like the Sports Geek Podcast? Find us on Facebook.com/SportsGeek. Check out which teams work with Sports Geek at sportsgeekhq.com/clients. Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes.
you.